We are back on Boilers in the Stands for a special Purdue Volleyball edition. Joining me today from SI is Dustin Schutte to talk some Purdue Volleyball, and very shortly we'll be joined by Coach Dave Shondell as well as a couple of players. You are watching Boilers in the Stands. Dustin, I'm really excited today, and I'm glad you joined me. I know you are as much of a volleyball fan as I am, and obviously super excited about this season and super excited to get things started right away. As we look at this Purdue volleyball season, with everything that's going on that happened in the offseason coming into this year and surrounding this season, it's been really amazing to see the strides that this Purdue volleyball team has made and where they stand right now. If we look at them from a national standpoint or a Big Ten standpoint, currently sitting at 15-3 on the season, 6-2 in the Big Ten. I guess what is just your initial reaction to the way Dave has handled everything around this team and managed to put a really, really successful group together for this year?
Yeah, there's a couple things that stand out, and I had the fortune to talk with him in the off season, kind of shortly after everything transpired, and after he was able to get some of the new players onto the roster from the transfer portal. And a couple things that stuck out to me was, one thing he said, I think it was back in the spring, was, we have a lot of players who have played a lot of volleyball, they just haven't played together. And so I think one of the questions coming into this season was not necessarily the talent level. It was how quickly could the players kind of all gel together, knowing they hadn't played together. And I think, kind of bringing back Taylor Anderson, and we'll talk about her, certainly really helps. Having an experienced setter certainly helps that meshing stage and everything like that. And then the other thing that stands out too is at media days, he was asked about expectations, and he said, I don't know what the national people are talking about in terms of their expectations, but one thing is for certain is that the expectation at Purdue is not going to change. And so I think that you're seeing that, right? 15-3, 6-2, and seeded 8th in that first NCAA seed reveal, which would put them at a 2 seed. Just overly impressive with what he's done so far this season.
Yeah, 100%, and they deserve all the credit in the world. I'm trying to figure something out right now. For whatever reason, it's streaming live on Facebook and Twitter, but it's not going live on YouTube immediately. So I'm trying to get this changed really quickly to get it to go live. All kinds of technical difficulties this morning, Dustin, but we may just roll with it on Facebook and Twitter, and then I can download it and upload it to YouTube as soon as this ends as well. So let's go ahead and bring Dave onto the show and welcome him to the stage. Coach Dave Shondell, so glad, so excited that you could join us today. Just as we bring you on here, you've been very open about last year when you got notification of a few transfers, about your thought process, and that you really kind of looked at things and questioned where you were headed with things. To come into this season, bring in some transfers, have the 11th ranked team in the country, 8th in the first tournament seed reveal. Can you just kind of walk us through what this journey's been like this year to get to where you are today?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, guys. It's a pleasure to be here, and any chance I have to talk about Purdue volleyball and Purdue University is always an enjoyable situation for me. But yeah, you go back into January when, or actually late December, when we first found out that we had some players that were going to most likely leave because they were going on the portal. It was hard to accept, to be honest. I was shocked by it. We run what we think is a players program at Purdue, and people that, we try to take great care of. But in this era of college athletics, which seems to be evolving faster than we can keep up with, these things are going to happen. And the one thing that I guess I've learned, and I hope that all coaches will understand, is that if you have a good program, players will leave, but you'll find players that want to come to your program. And I asked 5 players to come, and 5 players came. Were they the 5 best players in America on the portal? Who knows? Okay. I mean, by the time we got on there, some people had already gone. There were some people that came on late that were great players, but we're happy with the 5 that we have. And more importantly, the 8 that continued, 8 or 9 that stayed with us, have been phenomenal in their loyalty, in their commitment, and how they've grown as players. So it's been, I would call it a Cinderella story, to be honest with you, because it's been beyond what I expected. I wasn't expecting some of the numbers that you shared, 15-3, with, I think, beating 6 teams that have been ranked in the top 25. The 6-2 in the conference, considering we've played a pretty tough slate so far. Those are impressive. But when the committee came out and had us at the number 8 seed, that kind of blew my mind a little bit. Now, you have to keep in mind, we got a lot of volleyball still to play. I mean, people look at that, you're halfway through the season, and people think that those seeds are going to be pretty stable, but they're not. I can tell you that. Not, across the board, there's going to be some major changes going on as conference play really starts to heat up.
Coach, I mentioned this in the intro. You talked about you had good players, you had experienced players that had played a lot of volleyball. They just hadn't played together. Was there a match or a moment or at any point in the season, or maybe even in the off season, where you knew what your team could accomplish?
Well, off season, no, because you really can't see a whole lot of them. In the spring, we had a good season, but we had a lot of people hurt. Cash Anderson didn't play. Grace Heaney was just coming back. I think McAleer was out for the spring, and somebody else, So we're just trying to piecemeal a group together and help them learn how to compete. And the one thing I said from the very beginning is that we had to put our system in place early. A lot of times during the spring and during the early fall, when your team arrives, you're teaching fundamental skills. You're trying to develop them and make them better players. We had to push ahead to offensive systems, defensive systems, making sure we wanted to be, of all the teams that dealt with the portal the way that we did, and most teams did. That's the one thing that I think Purdue fans are great at, is they focus so much on Purdue, and they don't realize there's stuff going on other places, okay? And you can go right across the Big Ten, and there was major changes at about every program, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2. Nebraska, they had great things happen with them. A lot of people staying and great athletes. So that's why they're the best team in the country. They're kind of the Purdue basketball team of women's volleyball right now. But we felt like we had to put these things into place, so we were going to be ready to play when we opened up against South Florida in Knoxville, Tennessee. I didn't want to go in there feeling like there's a team that was going to be more functional, more operational than we were. And that worked out pretty well, because I thought when the season started, our guys understood where they were supposed to be on offense and defense. And, of course, having a setter, 2-year starting setter return helped us. Having Woolard play the way that she's played, moving from the opposite position to the left side, has been great. The return of Grace Heaney, people had forgotten. I think even our staff had kind of forgotten what kind of an athlete and how special she was. And then to have McAleer and Julia Kane hold down the serve receive and the defense the way they have, that's been kind of the real bright spots, I think, for us. Yeah, the players that have come in have been a huge help, but those 5 that return and some others have really been, I think, the staple for who we are right now.
Yeah, and talking about the players that you returned, and obviously did bring in several from the portal, but I don't know, just from the outside looking in, that maybe anybody's more important than kind of the quarterback of your offense and Taylor Anderson, retaining her. I often refer to her kind of as a unicorn, just because of her versatility and her size at that position. She leads the Big Ten in assists, while also racking up 58 kills and 36 blocks on the year so far. What has she meant to this team and just kind of running the show with all the other new faces that came in?
Well, I think she's having, even though she started the last 2 seasons, I think this is a breakout season for her. I don't think she was comfortable the last couple of seasons of being the person in charge and being a leader. She's a really soft-spoken individual. She's not the most aggressive or assertive, young woman you're going to find on the volleyball floor. But she, like all of our players, cares so much about this team and the direction that we're going to go. She's been more willing to step out of that comfort zone and be more. And it's just been so much fun just to banter back and forth with her and try to push her harder and harder. And she's still reluctant to maybe be as offensive as I like her to be. The numbers are fine, but when you have the athletic ability she has and the length, you can score a lot of points in the setting position, and we're not getting as much of that as I would like. But at the other hand, she doesn't make bad decisions, period. She's just so smart on who to get the ball to. And that's a growth process that she's had. In the past, she felt like she had to set certain people. And so that really kind of handcuffed her as to how she was going to run her offense. Now she's become much more effective at going against the flow and not setting the same people all the time. And she's just kind of running her own program, which is what you want your setter to do. I've never been a coach that wanted to dictate to my setter who the ball needed to go to. A lot of coaches will do that play after play. If that's the case, you got the wrong setter. You have to have somebody that you have great confidence in that can make those decisions for you on the floor. And Taylor's doing a great job of that.
You mentioned Taylor being maybe kind of a quiet leader on the court. One of the ones who I don't think has a problem allowing her voice to be heard, and one of my favorite post-game interviews is Cash Anderson. Yeah. For her to come in, I think you've spoken on this, she's kind of taken over a leadership role and been a vocal leader. But for her to come into a new program, I'm curious, how quickly did your players kind of gravitate towards her? How quickly did she assume that role? Like, hey, this might be a new team, but I can still be a leader for this team.
Yeah, she's got great leadership capabilities. And that's something that, collectively we didn't have a lot of, returning. So when I talked to her the first time on the phone in late December, sometime right around Christmas, she really impressed me with her confidence. She'll have a role on TV somewhere down the road. I think that's kind of what she wants to do, is kind of, be a sports analyst or, sideline reporter or something along those lines. And she's great. But at first, I think our players were a little bit taken back by her because she was so aggressive and so vocal and so competitive. And they weren't sure what to think about somebody coming in, and then she kind of paced herself and we had some conversations. And I told her, I said, there's no need to hold back. Okay. We need what you can bring. And it's their job to deal with you. Okay. And make those adjustments, because we have to have players that want to compete, that want to fight, that want to encourage one another and show up every day and bring it. And she does that. And last year when she was at Michigan State, she hit about $180 on the year, all right, which is satisfactory. I mean, it's not something you want to have out of your left side hitter. You're not going to win a lot at 180, okay? And right now she's over 250, I think, on the year. And I know in Big Ten play she's over 260. And a lot of that is she had a bad shoulder, for about a year and a half, and nobody really told her she had a bad shoulder. She was just dealing with it. She got here, and the first thing we did was we had surgery. We had the resource to make that happen. Our crew in sports medicine is phenomenal. And, we wanted her to train, but we had to have the surgery. And doctors did a great job. The rehab has been great. And now she's just thundering the ball at a way that she hasn't done probably since she was a freshman in college. So she's really made a difference for us. And I think when she plays well, when anybody in that, what we call the L2, the second left side hitting position, call it the L2, when anybody in that L2 plays well for us, we're going to be really hard to beat. And she's been pretty consistent here in the Big Ten.
Yeah. Somebody else that's really stepped up this year, obviously, is Kenna Woolard. And having stepped into that bigger role, once that kind of opening was there, moving over from opposite to outside hitter, did you know coming into this year that she was going to be able to take the kind of leap that she did in terms of upping her performance to the point where she was named National Player of the Week, and I think currently stands like second in kills in the Big Ten? Did you see that coming, or has she surprised you a little bit even?
That's been a little surprising to me. She went 2 years of not really playing a lot of left side hitting position because she was over on the opposite. When we recruited her out of club in high school, it didn't take long to know she had all the attributes you need to be an electric player at this level. And I was thrilled when we got her. You know, it wasn't easy. A lot of people were trying to get Kenna Woolard. A lot of Big Ten schools really wanted Kenna. She's slightly undersized, but she's so fast and she jumps so well and she gets on the ball really quickly. And that was one of the things that we worked on during the off season and during the early fall, was that she had a little bit of hitch in her arm swing. And we watched a lot of tape. And so she really understood that. And so now she's really gotten on the ball much faster, and she's much looser and I guess more fluid in her shoulders and how she can hit lots of different shots that she really hadn't spent a lot of time on when she was on the right side. But she's matured so much. I don't know if she would have a year ago, if she could have done the things that she's doing now, just because she didn't have that maturity that she has now in her third year of playing fairly regularly for us. And she's out to prove a point. You know, she was the forgotten person. Even probably she feels that way about our coaching staff. I'll tell this story again. You guys probably have heard it, but when she committed to us, we did not have the two left side hitters that started last year. They came in later because both had committed to other schools initially. One had signed a national letter of intent to Notre Dame, and then that coach was released, and so she then wanted to come to Purdue. The other had a similar situation at Penn State. So Kenna's committing here thinking she's going to be in good shape playing on the left side, and then she gets here and that changes. But she didn't pout about it. She didn't mope around. She just understood that's the way it is in the Big Ten, and got a lot of playing time on the right side. But now she's back where she really wants to be, and I think that the door opening for her on the left side has just really been a blessing for her and a blessing for all of us.
Another player that's taken on a bigger role, and she was out last season, is Grace Heaney. So how impressed how much has she impressed you, I guess, just in terms of the way that she's kind of responded? Because not only is she coming back from injury, and she immediately also had to take on a bigger role.
Yeah. And whenever somebody has that labrum surgery, you just never know what's going to happen. Your shoulder, is it going to come back? And I think as a player, you're always a little bit worried about that. But every week she hits the ball a little bit harder. And that's what you want to see, just that continued progress. But Grace Heaney is a world-class human being. She's intelligent, she's committed, she's funny, she's quirky, but she's a really good athlete, and she's super disciplined. And she has, like I talked about Kenna having this great range now, she came in with that range. She's got really loose shoulder. And she really hides the shot that she's going to hit. And she can go cross body. She can go inside out. She can go high over the top. She's got a great feel for where the defense is and mixing shots. There's a lot of good right side players in the country this year. I mean, that's kind of been the biggest thing about the national scene is how good some of these opposite players are. But she is, and she's not as good as some of them. Okay. Some of them are just big and physical, and they just are really, really hard to stop. But her efficiency is so good. And then you add the fact that she's playing 6 rotations and making plays in the backcourt. She's becoming one of our best defensive players, which I never imagined that would happen. But she's got great length. I mean, she's 6'2", but her wingspan's longer than that. And so she makes a lot of plays for us. She's really focused, and she brings this presence to the floor that's very calm, doesn't stress out. And that's kind of who our team is right now. Last year we played with this super high intensity, but there was a little bit up and down going on with us, okay? Now these guys, they don't play with enough intensity for me, to be honest with you. I mean, they're out there laughing around, goofing around in practice and matches, and I'm just thinking, you know what? That's hard for me to deal with, but it's who they are, and they're doing a pretty good job right now. So, I kind of have to deal with their personalities a little bit more. But when it comes time to get serious, they can get serious, and they can really pull together and compete.
And talking about that type of attitude might have been part of why they were able to turn things around in that UCLA match. And you come off a huge comeback reverse sweep in that one. I know I was talking to Dustin later, and I said I was so hyped after that match. I sent Dave a message that night, and he's like, yeah. I did too. and I had when I woke up the next morning, I had a message back from you. Just an amazing match. it feels like, just watching from the outside, that something changed during that match, after that match. Did they find a new level of confidence, aggression, cohesion, something? Is there anything you've seen, like, when you come off of a huge comeback win like that?
Yeah, I think the win over SMU, I never even answered Dustin's question initially, what the turning point was, or whatever, whoever asked that question. I thought when we beat SMU, who is loaded with talent, and now they've moved up, I think, to maybe 5th or 6th in the country. Okay. I think their seed was at least that high. Okay. They're a loaded team. And we go down on a neutral court at about 11 in the morning, and we beat them in 4. And I thought that was a great message to our team. Okay. This is what we're capable of doing, but we weren't doing it on a regular basis. We weren't playing at that level consistently. But when we went out to Pauley Pavilion, which you guys know it's a basketball palace, but it's also a volleyball palace. I mean, the UCLA's men's and women's teams over the course of time have just won and won and won, and you couldn't go out there and beat them. And I was on Ball State teams that could never beat UCLA, okay, especially in Pauley Pavilion. And then to go out there and have that comeback, it was an amazing. And you saw my video I put on after the match. I couldn't hold myself back. I just had to go out and talk about it. And then to come back and beat USC. That weekend, going on the road to those traditional powerhouse programs with a team that nobody thought was going to be any good, it just changed who we were. Okay, and I think we have dropped the one to Nebraska since then, but a lot of people are going to drop matches to Nebraska. So I think we're playing pretty well. But as I've said all season long, from this point on, every match we get in will be close. Every single match we play will be a close match. And can we maintain our composure and our competitive spirit and play with great functionality? And if we do, we got a chance to have a great season.
Well, and to kind of feed off of that, this last question kind of works off of that a little bit. But you've had a lot of bounce back moments even within matches. I think back to the Nashville match against Tennessee. You won the first 2. You had a big lead, I think a 7-point lead in the 3rd set, and you drop it. But the team responds and wins in the 4th set. After you lose to Georgia Tech, 2 nights later, you beat a ranked Kansas team on your home court. After Illinois, again, found a way to respond. And maybe it's that happy-go-lucky kind of mentality your team has, but is there something that kind of speaks or why this team has that level of resiliency to where it seems like one loss doesn't affect them?
I do think that it's their mentality, their attitude that they play with, that it's unique. And they don't let things bother them. I mean, we can be at the worst. I mean, we're playing Rutgers, and going to Rutgers is the most difficult thing for a head coach to do because it's the one place in the world you can't afford to lose. You can't. I mean, there's some places you can go and you can get beat. People say, "Oh yeah, that's okay." You go to Rutgers and get beat, and everybody in the world is going to know about it. Okay, so as a coach, you're stressing out the entire match. And I told our girls before the match, I said, I need you to be the best version of yourselves here. And then I was the worst version of myself because I could hardly even coach because I was so uptight. But, they found a way just to hang in there. And there's times that, we might be getting beat and we're not playing well. And they're just out there just giggling and laughing and smiling. And, certain people have that as how they deal with situations. I know that. Okay. It's never been one of my favorite things. But I do believe that the fact that they're loose and they don't stress out about things does allow them just to stick with the course. And not get on each other. I think that's what some teams will do is that they'll start pointing fingers at people. This group doesn't point the finger at anybody. Okay. They just deal with it and they're playing, as I mentioned, with great purpose. They have a lot to prove. And until this season's over, we will always have something to prove.
Dave, you recently hit 500 wins. If I remember right in basketball, I think Gene Cady has 512 wins. So getting into some rarefied air there. And I actually looked up when you started at Purdue during this process. And then I got to thinking, my neighbor, Kim McConaughey, was on that very first team you had, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, she was, a handful of years younger than me, but she grew up right around the corner and was in my local 4-H club with me and whatnot when I was growing up. So
yeah, well, Kim's a character, as you know, okay, and she's not afraid of anything. And for us to come in and have some players like Kim, Renata Dargan, Leah Wishmeyer, Kim Kappa. We had some really tough kids. And Kim had played in the Munciana Volleyball Club, which myself and my brother John were a big part of, as my older brother Steve. And I think that our connection with her and some other people, they had a lot of kids from the state of Indiana, that really allowed us to get the support of our players that helped us get a job in which Morgan Burke hired a high school coach to come in and take over a Big Ten university. It's never been done before. Okay. And so, that was a great way to get started with a great group of people. And they were all, we didn't have a senior on the team that year. And so we just found a way to just keep getting better and better. But Kim was a big part of that, and she helped us get this job.
Well, congrats on the 500 wins. That's an amazing achievement. As you look ahead, you still got a little bit over the third of the season left. You catch Minnesota twice, Penn State, Wisconsin, IU still on the schedule. What's this team have to do to stay on track for a high finish in the Big Ten and a high quality seed in the tournament?
Well, I think there's so much balance in the league this year. You take Nebraska out of the formula. I think we found out anybody can play with anybody else. There might be a couple on the lower end that will have a hard time, especially once they start getting beat. They stop believing they can compete. Okay, that just happens in all of our sports. And but I think the middle 14 teams, the 14 after Nebraska, before you get down a little bit toward the bottom, they're just going to be brouhahas all the time. And it just comes down to can you win your fair share of those? You mentioned those 5 matches. Can we win 3 or 4 of those? And then take care of business against some of the other people. Nothing will be easy. We know that. We've talked about it from the very beginning of the season that none of this is going to be easy. But you have to keep getting better. That's why you have to get in the gym and you have to train and you have to have film sessions and you have to have individual conversations with people. And what a lot of people don't really seem to understand is the value. The most important thing I can do as a head coach is to constantly have our players ready to practice and ready to play. You can't lose practice time. You can't go out and not be ready to play Illinois on Friday or Minnesota on Sunday. That doesn't happen by itself. Your staff has to work really, really hard to get them mentally engaged. And so that's a big part of that. Can we have them ready to play? And if they're ready to play, we'll have a shot. But we won't go undefeated the rest of the season. It just won't happen. There's just too many good teams, and I think there'll be a lot of wins and losses. Last night Oregon goes in and beats UCLA at UCLA, and then you start watching Oregon. When I watched Oregon play the first Big Ten match, they were at Illinois. They were awful. First year coach, all new players. They've got 1 defensive specialist back. That's it on the entire Oregon roster. So you think that we had it tough, okay? They had to manufacture an entire team, and they were awful against Illinois. Now they're playing great. I think they beat Minnesota, and then they go to UCLA. So there's a lot of good teams out there. You just got to hold your own. You can't lose your mind if you lose a match or two. You just got to keep fighting and keep finding ways to get better.
Considering kind of all the things that transpired and the team you have now, and obviously the at the midway point of the season, a little bit over. But where does this team rank among the most fun that you've had during your time at Purdue? The most fun to coach?
Yeah, that would be toward the top. And I mentioned this on my Dig City podcast. It's not nearly as effective as your podcast here, but we do have a podcast. And I said on that podcast, I said, I've never, since I first got here, when I first got here, I was who I was. Okay. And then you worry so much about how players are going to respond to not playing and how you coach them up and those kind of things that you kind of take a step back now and then. Okay. Haven't taken any steps back this year. Okay. We're coaching and we're teaching and we're being critical and we're pushing and motivating and doing whatever I think that we need to do with each of these players. And nobody's getting sensitive about it. And to me, that's enjoyable. That's a great experience when you know you have the trust of your team and they want you to coach them up the best that you can. And no one's acting like, they're alienated because you jumped their tail. They appreciate it and they respond to it. And so that's what makes this group unique, is that they know that they're not good enough yet. They want to be coached, and they're not getting sensitive when they do get coached.
All right, Dave, if you want to bring in Natalie and Bianca now, we got a couple of questions while you're still in the room, and then we'll just ask a few questions directly to them as well.
Okay, I'll get them. Thank you.
Yep. Certainly been a lot of fun here so far. For those of you guys looking towards the next match, Purdue goes to take on Illinois, I believe at 8 o'clock on Friday. So if you're looking at your Purdue sports schedule, we've got the Kentucky exhibition game at 6, and then you can roll right into the Purdue volleyball match against Illinois. We are now joined by Bianca and Natalie. Welcome to the show, guys.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you.
Yeah. Can you guys hear us?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, good deal. We got a couple of questions while Dave's still there in the room with you, and then we'll ask you a few more questions after that as well. Do either of you guys have a funny moment or a funny story since you've joined Purdue about Dave, Coach Shondell here?
I think he's definitely got like a few funny quotes that he says pretty often. He loves to say, what is it? Jiminy Christmas is my favorite one.
I like when he tells us not to dilly-dally or clown or any of those terms. He always has very fun terms for everything that I just love so much to hear.
Yeah.
Those are just Midwestern terms. Those are just Midwestern.
So. Neither of us are from the Midwest, so maybe it's extra silly to us.
Yep.
On a slightly, I guess, more serious note, or I mean, if there's some funny stuff you want to throw in here too, but what has been maybe your favorite part about playing for Coach Shondell and the rest of the staff at Purdue?
I can start. Well, I was actually literally just saying this yesterday to our teammate Lindsay Bell. I just think he definitely is the best coach I've ever had with in all aspects. Like, I truly feel like in volleyball too, like I'm growing so much and everything, but he knows the right stuff to say at the right time. Like right now we just hit middle of season, and he pulled us together as a group and had a good talk with us about like he basically just motivated us to like keep going and like kind of reminded all of us why we're here and everything. And I think a lot of coaches sometimes have issues with not knowing the right things to say at what time of the season. Whereas every time that Dave pulls us in and has a specific like meeting about something, it's always like the exact thing that the team needed to hear. And it amazes me every time. I was talking about that yesterday.
Gotcha. Well, Dave, if you're still in the room, thanks for joining us. We've got a couple more questions for Bianca and Natalie, but thanks again for your time. Natalie and Bianca, both of you were in the group of transfers that came to Purdue in this last year. What, for both of you, kind of drew you to this program as you were evaluating where to take your next steps?
I think for me, like Purdue has traditionally been like a really great program, like a top 10, one of the best volleyball teams in the nation. And so obviously when, I was talking to Purdue, it was kind of like a no-brainer, like this is like the place for me. And I think just all the staff and Dave himself, like they definitely know like how to run a team, how to coach, like how to make players better. And so, I mean, also this university is really prestigious as well. So it's just kind of like the full package here. And that's what drew me in.
Same here. It was a no-brainer for me to come here. I just wanted to go to when I entered the transfer portal, I was really just looking for the school that I knew I love volleyball, and I definitely have aspirations to play professionally afterwards as well. And I just wanted to go somewhere that I could trust the coaching staff fully, and this coaching staff is very like reputable. So somewhere that I knew that I would get better. And since I've come here, I do feel like every day I get better and better because of how well they've been training me.
So kind of building off that, Bianca, Purdue's kind of been known under Coach Shondell as a defensive team, and certainly I think you guys have gotten back to that. I'm curious, when you committed, how much of an influence was his style of play, and how much did it match your game? Like, has it been a tough transition for you, or was it rather seamless because your style of play kind of fit what Purdue wants to do?
I mean, for me personally, I don't know. I bet this answer would be different for everybody, but I have I've played overseas. I've played at my old school was Miami, and that had a lot of our coach was on the Puerto Rican national team. So everywhere that you go in the world, there's a little different style of play. And I'm from San Diego originally, so everywhere I've played, it's been completely different styles of play. And I honestly just love the way we play here. Me specifically, I'm a middle, so it's really nice. Like the routes that we run, there's so many, and the coaches, especially our coach John too, they're very creative with the middle routes and everything. This might be one of my favorite styles of volleyball play of all of the various different teams and styles that I've been on in my life.
I think for me too, like I went overseas and was training in China too, and they're traditionally like a very ball control, ball handling team. And similar here, like we do a lot of drills that get a lot of reps in. Like we have this drill called cat passing, which is just like serve receive for like 20 minutes straight. So we do a lot of drills that cater towards like building up ball control, defense, ball handling, which is something that I grew up with throughout my volleyball career. So
nice. Gonna throw this block party up from a commenter in here because that kind of leads into my next question. Natalie, did you play at Holloway when you were at Iowa?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so you kind of knew what to expect, right, when you came. But for you, Bianca, not really having been around that, and for both of you, I guess, what's it like to play in what's known as one of the louder arenas in all of college volleyball, and to have that block party behind you guys?
I love it so much, and I'm so grateful for it. I didn't even take an official visit, or I don't really, I didn't, my parents didn't grow up in America, so like we didn't really, I didn't really know much about college growing up and everything, so I didn't even watch on TV. And so I really had no idea what to expect. I just came and hoped for the best, and yeah, I'm just so like it exceeded my expectations, and I love like my first time playing an away game. Now I'm more confident in everything. But my first time playing an away game at Purdue, I was definitely very nervous, and then after that, I played my first home game, and I just felt so comfortable because like the love of the crowd just radiates onto the court, and it's like it's so comforting to see how the block party and everyone in the audience just truly loves everyone on the court, and it's a great appreciation for volleyball.
I agree. I think like when I played here at Iowa, I was like freaked out a little because the band is like right in your face and the block party's right there like shouting at you. And like, oh my gosh, I love the band so much. They're all like amazing. And also it's so personable because I feel like we know so many people like watching us. And so like we form relationships with that audience. And I think that that's what's really special because, you know, you could just at Iowa, we would have people come watch, but like I didn't really know any of them. But here, like we see people and we have like conversations and we know those people. So I think that's what's really unique as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
This one might take a little thinking because it's kind of spur of the moment, but could both of you provide us with maybe a fun behind the scenes moment? And I'll go on a little bit here to give you a little bit of time to think. It could have been, I know you guys did some like one-on-one stuff in the spring when you were winter and spring when you guys were kind of getting to know each other. Dave talked about like going out to restaurants or coffee or a movie or something, or whether it was after a match or before a match or something funny somebody said. Is there a one or two fun behind the scenes moments that you guys can think of from this season or even in the off season?
Okay, I have one.
Okay.
This is kind of like a little silly, but me Taylor, Kenna, Grace, and Julia all have a book club.
Oh.
And so we started by reading this one book. It was just me, Taylor, and Grace to begin with. And the book was just awful. Like, we had to stop reading midway. And then we moved on. We gained more people in the book club, and we started reading Pride and Prejudice, which has been super fun. And we actually had a meeting at like a coffee shop, and we text like chapters. There was a whole like Excel spreadsheet on like what to do each week. So yeah, I think that was probably one of the highlights.
I think that definitely a strength of this team. I don't know if there's many, if not like any teams that compare to how much of a close-knit group we are. So it's thinking of stories right now, every single day, there's something nuts happening not nuts, but there's something happening behind the scenes where we're all getting together and having fun, and we're not just doing random things. We are doing random things, but for example, I think in 2 days we're gonna have a baptism for a random cat. So it's just random little events like this that we can just throw together, and then everyone comes over to our house and we get everyone together and we also love a good matching outfit.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Outfits.
We'll wear the craziest outfits. One thing about our team is we love a good theme. Any event that we have that we all get together, it'll be like a theme of some kind where we all dress insane. Yeah.
And I think we're so close to even when we're not together, after the game, we're all getting together and meeting up at nighttime or things like that. It's not just volleyball that we see each other. Even now, my phone has 80 messages in the group chat.
Oh my God, our group chat is insane.
We're always talking. There's not a moment where we're not interacting with one another.
And the thing about being an athlete is that there's also a lot of other sports teams.
Yep.
That we get to know of, because we have a PAD, the PAD, Purdue Athletic Dining, where we meet everyone from all the other sports, and then these characters become inside jokes to our team. So anytime we see them, we text in the group chat. It really, there's just lots going on behind the scenes, but it's fun.
I did not have cat baptism on my bingo card of things that would be brought up today. I'm sure there's a backstory there we probably don't need to get into right now. But Bianca, I got a bone to pick with your hometown, because I went to cover Purdue basketball in San Diego last year.
Oh.
Everybody told me how beautiful it was. It was so foggy. Both days I was out there, I couldn't see anything.
What time of year was it?
It was the Thanksgiving week tournament. It was so foggy, I couldn't see anything the whole time I'm out there, and everybody's like, it's never like this. So I got to go back.
They call it sunny San Diego, but a lot of times, especially May gray and June gloom, because of the marine sea layer, it's foggy every single day in those 2 months. And then in November and March, and then actually no, March is usually clear. November and maybe February too, there'll be random days that it gets crazy foggy.
Well, I'll have to give it a second. I guess I'll have to give it a second try sometime. Have you been able to adjust to the Indiana winters yet? Were you here? You were here last winter, right?
Yeah, I came in January, and it was my first time. This right now is my first time seeing leaves go from green to red. And every day that we're driving together,
she points it out.
I point it out. I'm like, oh my God, look, that tree was green not too long ago, I swear. And she's just rolling her eyes what? Obviously. But the winters, I have a Purdue parka, and I'm ready for it to come.
She'll wear flip-flops in the snow.
I'm really not I don't really know what I'm doing, and I get really, really cold. I'm very much a cold person always, but I think I've adjusted an okay amount.
There you go. Well, I think Dustin's got one more question for you, and then we'll wrap things up so you guys can get back on with your day.
I was a little nervous about putting this question on here, but based on your answer to the last question I asked, I feel confident that I'm going to get some good answers here. So If I gave you both a weekend off, no volleyball responsibilities, no school responsibilities, where are you going and what are you doing? How are you spending that weekend?
Well, 100% needs to be near a beach.
Yeah,
Okay.
that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it really, really depends. Like, it depends on everything. We're always talking about going on like a little weekend trip and whatever, but genuinely, because like Indianapolis to Miami is so close, I'm honestly thinking we could do a little Miami trip because I have like that was my old school
Right.
that I went to. I have so many friends there that we could definitely stay at one of their houses and then go to the beach all the time. They have good food. We could go to like a really fancy dinner place.
We've also talked about maybe going to Hawaii, but if it's a weekend trip,
A weekend might be too short.
too
that.
short.
And
We
I was
need at
thinking
least
too, like Europe, like Spain or whatever. A weekend might be too short. And that's why I was thinking San Diego too, where I'm from. We could go there. But that too, like Indianapolis to San Diego just for a weekend is kind of far. New York would be cool too, because like Connecticut, New York is super close. But if we're just getting one weekend off, might as well go to the beach. So I'm thinking Miami is our answer.
Okay.
Sorry, that was a long
Final.
No, that's perfect.
Final answer. Well, guys, congratulations on the season that you guys have put together so far. It's
Thank
been
you.
a lot of fun watching you guys, staying up till 1 a.m. or whatever it was, watching you guys come back against UCLA was one of the highlights of this fall sports season for me. Good luck on the rest of the season, and thank you once again.
Thank you so much. Dave's not in the room right now. Should I go grab him?
No, we're done with Dave. So.
Oh, okay.
All right, thanks. Thank you. All right, that was Natalie and Bianca joining us from Purdue Volleyball team as we wrap things up there. Again, Dustin, just really, really amazed in terms of everything that this team has been able to do and put together in terms of the performance that they've provided so far this year. Obviously, a long way to go. We talked about some of the matchups that they have coming up, but most directly, they get a chance for revenge against an Illinois team that was kind of a surprise loss at home. Illinois currently sits alone in second place in the Big Ten, I believe. And if they can knock them off, then Purdue gets back into I think like a 4 or 5-way tie for second place right now in the Big Ten. That match happens at 8:00 on Friday night. You guys can go from directly watching the exhibition game. Well, see, this is tricky. Well, no, we're not going live right after the exhibition game. So there's no competition between Boilers and the Stands post-game show and volleyball. So just set your Friday night for a full Purdue sports venue. Dustin, any last thoughts before we wrap this up?
I just echo everything that you said. And the last thing I'll add to it is just like, I think Bianca and Natalie, having them on kind of shows you not just their personalities, but the personalities of the team. And I agree. I think that's why they've had so much success, and it's just an easy team to root for. So hopefully they continue to do well, and they've got some big matches coming up. So be sure to tune in and root on the Boilermakers, because they are a fun team to cheer. They're a fun team to watch and an easy team to cheer for.
Yeah, and if you guys are tuned in because you're used to watching us do basketball coverage, pregame and postgame and all that stuff, and you're not a big volleyball fan, I would highly encourage you to get to Holloway, watch a game in person. The environment is a mini Mackey Arena. Volleyball viewership is growing so much in the country right now, and it is one of my favorite, absolute favorite sports to watch, especially when it's a Purdue volleyball team that's playing at this level. So, sorry once again, guys, for a little bit of technical difficulties on YouTube. Once this show is over, I'll make sure I get the entire show uploaded. If it is not there on YouTube, we just had a minor glitch with a new setting that's in the system that didn't let it broadcast live right away. Luckily, Joe Jackson jumped in the background, saved the day for us, and did get it posted to YouTube without wasting too much time. Thanks again, and we will see you, for those of you guys that watch Boilers in the Stands, probably going to do a recap show either Saturday or Sunday. We aren't going to do one immediately after the basketball game because Greg and I both have to travel about an hour or more to get to where we're staying after that game, because there's a football game in Kentucky the next day, so there are no hotels available anywhere. Dustin, tell people where they can find you on social media and on your podcast.
Yep, I run the Purdue on SI sites, and you can find me at Shooty Dustin, the si.com/college/Purdue, and then the Boiler Banter podcast. If you just type that into YouTube, I recently had Craig on, and we talked about Fan Day and previewed the UK exhibition. So lots of good stuff on both the website and on the podcast.
Yep, and you guys can find us at Boilers and Stands. You can find me at Craig Bowers 34. Guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You'll get notifications anytime we're about ready to go live with the show. Thank you once again, and we will see you all soon.